imposter. I want to thank everyone for joining the Imposter Syndrome workshop. My name is Isaac Hansen, and I'm an early careers recruiter at Bigma. Before we get started, we'd love to hear where everyone is logging in from. So in the chat, please drop your name, location, and what fictional place or world would you want to live in? And I'm also going to drop that in the chat as well. But would love to see where everybody's like calling in from, or if you're not shy, feel free to come off of mute and let us know. So we'll give everybody a second to respond to the question.
This is a good one.
Yeah, right?
What
fictional place would you want to live in, Jeannie?
Ooh. Okay, this is the first one that comes to mind, but if anyone here has seen Wreck-It Ralph, and you know, I forget the name of the game, but where the girl character is like in this candy land of like all the trees, like that sounds like a place I would want to be spend my time every day.
Love. For me, it would be Wakanda from Black Panther.
Ooh, that is
yes, Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Genovia, I see you, Lauren.
Yes. Cool. Oh, Harry Potter, I will see you.
We gotta ask you, Savar, what's your what do they call it? House? What is your
house? Yeah, what house? Yeah. Shrek to Swamp. Okay, Edith. Well, you all continue to feel free to respond to the question. I'm going to continue moving along. So a few housekeeping items to address. We ask that you please keep your mics muted. You are more than welcome to drop a question in the chat, and I'm happy to address it live with our presenter, Jeannie. As a reminder, this session is meant to be as interactive as possible, so we welcome all forms of engagement through emojis, comments, and questions throughout the chat. All of our sessions will be recorded and will be posted on our Talent Board website. But with that, let's get started. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Jeannie.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Isaac, for that wonderful intro. And hello, students. Thanks for spending time with the Talent Board crew today. Super excited to dive into this topic of imposter syndrome. I think it's become especially prominent in this virtual world or post-pandemic world we're all navigating now that we're mostly working from home. As Isaac mentioned, definitely want today's session to be interactive and meaningful for you all. So if you're not camera shy, feel free to have your cameras on. We're going to be talking about some fun stuff, and I'll guide you through a few exercises. So cameras on. It helps me as a presenter know I'm not boring you all with the information. So feel free to have your cameras on. Come off mute if you have questions or things like that. Would love to be able to see your wonderful faces. Again, my name is Jeanie Arciaga. I am a senior program manager for university recruiting with the Roblox team. I'll also spend some time today talking a little bit about upcoming recruitment opportunities. With that, super excited to be spending time with you all today. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. Okay, this is a jam-packed session. I got a lot of really great material for you all. The goals for today's session are one, to define imposter syndrome. Like, let's get clear on what is this thing that we're all like talking about or experiencing. The second is acknowledging the feelings we have about, feeling like an imposter, feeling like a fraud, and their impact in our lives. I'll also walk you through a few exercises that I found really helpful to kind of silence that inner critic, or at least, minimize the impact of that negative voice or negative chatter in my head. And then lastly, together we'll all foster meaningful dialogue and support one another. Imposter syndrome is real, y'all, and it's okay if you have these experiences or feelings. What I'm hoping that we can cultivate today here is a safe space for us to talk with one another and offer up support through these times. Okay, as I mentioned, imposter syndrome is kind of a sensitive topic, very personal, and can have a real impact on the way we live, work, and kind of navigate the world. And so before we get into the content, just a few workshop principles that I'm hoping we all can agree to. So number one, creating a safe space. We're gonna get vulnerable. And so with that, what is shared here stays here. The second is engaging and interacting. Like I mentioned, I love being able to see your wonderful faces. I was one of those people that like really struggled during the pandemic with work from home because I really thrive on that social interaction. So please feel free to have your cameras on if you feel so inclined. I always welcome the QA reactions, emojis, anything in Zoom chat. Don't be shy. The third principle for today's workshop, pay it forward. We're gonna get real. We're gonna learn a lot of things together. I challenge you all afterwards to spread this knowledge or share what you learned with others. And then lastly, and this is kind of like my personal disclaimer, I'm not like a mental health professional or a doctor by any means or a researcher, but rather I'm coming to you all today as someone who has kind of experienced, these imposter feelings and to offer some, tips and tricks that have helped me. And I hope that they help you all too. So take what you need. Know that I'm like not a expert. This is ironic because like we're talking about imposter syndrome. I'm not like a medical expert by any means, but hopefully whatever we all share and discuss today, you'll find bits and pieces that are useful for you in your day-to-day life. All right, thumbs up if we all agree to these principles, whether in Zoom or in chat. Yes, I see you, Saad. Shmila, thank you. Perfect. All right, are we ready to get into it? Yeah? Okay, so first question to start off, what do we know about imposter syndrome? In the chat, or if you want to unmute, share how you would define imposter syndrome. What do you know? What have you heard? What do we think it is? Charbel says feeling not enough. What else?
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt. Yep. Thanks. That's a huge one. Feeling like you're not qualified as others. Yep. I can relate to that too. I've definitely been there before.
Yeah. Feeling like a fraud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Feeling like a fraud for sure. And Daru said, feeling like you don't deserve to be in that environment. Yep. I'm going to touch a little bit on that too. Sarab, feeling like you've been accepted to a place by mistake. Yep, I've been there before also. And Edith says, every girl boss talks about it, but they don't look like they've been through it. Yep. All of these things, I think we definitely kind of, there's a theme, right? It's this feeling that maybe we're not enough, or maybe we're not exactly, that vision of what we think of ourselves. So if we look to scientific research, again, I'm not a researcher, but I pulled this from materials available. Imposter phenomenon or imposter syndrome is defined as the situation in which highly accomplished, successful individuals paradoxically believe they are frauds who will ultimately fail and be unmasked as incompetent. This is a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you all. So this phenomenon of feeling like an imposter is common among people who are, highly accomplished, that have done really great things, but for whatever reason, they don't feel like they actually are successful. Like they don't believe that in themselves and worry that they might be revealed as a fake or a fraud, etc. So all of these comments that you had shared, definitely are parallel what we see here in the definition. With that, I'm going to go ahead and share a little video. This is by Marie Forleo, who is a thought leader, entrepreneur. She was featured in Oprah, and I'm like a big Oprah fan, so that's why how I got this information. But she's going to talk about, she does this really cool segment on YouTube where she asks questions from entrepreneurs, from women about, things that they're confronted with in the workplace. And so this video kind of talks through someone who may be having these imposter feelings and some examples of that. So I'll go ahead and play it for you now.
Or do, this episode is for you. Today's question comes from Z, who writes, "Hey Marie, I'm really struggling with imposter syndrome. No matter how many people tell me I'm amazing and have really helped them, no matter how much progress I make in my business and life, I still feel like it's all a fluke and I actually suck and I should give up. I know that's normal, lots of people have it, but hey, all the more reason to ask for your help. Got any tips? Thanks so much, Z. Oh, Z, my love, yes, yes, yes. This is a great question. You know, according to the International Journal of Behavioral Science, a whopping 70% of us suffer from imposter syndrome, or that feeling of being a total fraud. So you're right. You are normal. And guess what? You're actually in very good company. In fact, here are just a few people you might have heard of who can totally relate. Jennifer Lopez said, even though I had sold 70 million albums, there I was feeling like I'm no good at this. Jodie Foster said, when I won the Oscar, I thought it was a fluke. I thought everybody would find out and they'd take it back. Excuse me, we meant to give that to someone else. That was going to Meryl Streep. Even the legendary Maya Angelou said, I've written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. While this fraud feeling impacts everyone, it tends to hit women the hardest. Why? Because as women and members of other traditionally underrepresented groups, it's easy to look around and feel out of place or like we don't belong. And socially, we've been conditioned to self-deprecate and downplay our abilities. When we internalize that message that we're not the real deal, we suffer major consequences, and not just emotionally or mentally, but financially. I'm talking smaller careers and smaller bank accounts. That's why it's so important that we're talking about this. So let's dive in with 6.
Awesome. Love her content. Definitely check her out on YouTube. Again, she is all about like empowering women in business. So I know at the tail end, she talked about how imposter syndrome, affects more women. But I think all of us, as we've kind of discussed so far, are subject to those feelings of, not being what you actually say you are or having that self-doubt. So before we get into the next slide, what surprised you about that video? What are some initial reactions or thoughts you had after hearing about what Marie had to share about imposter syndrome? Feel free to post in chat or unmute. What were things that kind of shocked you after hearing about folks with imposter syndrome or some of the stats? Don't be shy. Interaction, engagement, y'all.
That it's more likely to be experienced by people of minority groups or people who are not well represented.
Yep. And she talked also about that conditioning, like, growing up in Western society, always feeling like you have to like compete and like do the next thing, right? Like that, when we internalize those pressures, it can manifest itself in, forms of imposter syndrome for sure. What else did we kind of learn or hear from Marie's example?
I was shocked to see J-Lo and
go ahead.
on the list. Yeah.
Say that again.
I was shocked to see J-Lo and Jodie Foster on the list.
Yes, exactly. Savara also wrote it in. Even successful people have been there too. They talked about J-Lo, Maya Angelou, Jodie Foster. These people who have made names for themselves in like film, literature, movies, art. Like even they have those feelings too. Stephanie, I see you. Edith, I see you. Yes, I love the call out on smaller bank accounts, some internalized patriarchy for sure. I think with imposter syndrome, how you think will definitely impact or influence how you behave, how you make decisions, and may make you operate in a way that isn't to your fullest potential, or you may not be able to realize your full potential if you have kind of these dialogues in your head. So really great observations here, y'all. Thank you so much for chiming in. So with that, I'm going to go ahead
or do this episode.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share with you all my story. I'm gonna get real vulnerable with you all. I encourage you all also to, come with an open mind, safe space like we talked about earlier. I want to share with you my story and how these feelings of imposter syndrome have impacted me and why I think this topic is so unique, especially at this point in time where we are kind of in this post-pandemic world, and why I think, especially for you all as students, why it's so important to kind of understand how this might impact you all. So I'm going to go ahead and spill the tea. Are you all ready for it? Yeah? Okay. So I like sharing my story in picture form. Don't judge me. I couldn't find a baby photo on my phone, so this is like the closest childlike thing I could find. Me with a bunch of Nutella. So here's me. I'm Jeanie. I am a first generation Filipino American, born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. My parents immigrated here from the Philippines back in the 80s, and they didn't speak much English. And quite frankly, we grew up poor, and my family faced a lot of hardship growing up. And if anyone here who identifies with the AAPI community can relate, we never really talk about like our feelings at home. It's always about success, making a better life for yourself and doing really well in school, all of those accomplishments or milestones that show, you've achieved something. Here's my giant extended Filipino family. Again, all of my aunts and uncles also immigrated from the US and literally started from the bottom. So as a result of these influences and my upbringing, I developed a really strong work ethic to, help me be successful, but also to kind of like survive and be kind of assimilated with the culture around me, right? And honestly, like keep up with everything. I think, going to college and the early 2000s was kind of stressful. College is stressful for like everyone. So I think this work ethic kind of helped me to survive, honestly. So if we fast forward to a few years later, I went to college at UC San Diego, and I was the first in my family to go to college. Any first gens in the house? Hands raised. First generation? Yes, I see you, Emily. So I was the first in my family to go to college. I didn't have any one in my like immediate circle or support network to like rely on to ask questions. And I gotta say, like that first year was really difficult for me. UCSD, for those of you that aren't aware, is in a very affluent neighborhood, La Jolla, California. It's like one of those cities where like a bunch of retired people kind of live, and it's like right next to the ocean. So it was totally a culture shock when I started going to school and, going through the motions. I came in as an undecided major, but literally everyone else, it seemed, kind of knew what they wanted to be after graduation. So at my school, you'd either be one of three things. Sorry, I can't do math. You'd either be a doctor, a programmer, or a lawyer. And clearly I did not follow that path. Also, while I was in school, I met the wonderful love of my life, who ironically enough is a doctor now. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this September. And I graduated from school and entered the workforce, not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I dabbled in HR, higher ed, and happily stumbled upon university recruiting. My career path kind of surprised me. I was fortunate to join an amazing company that's working on some really great things, that has an incredible culture and an awesome team that like really inspires me. Like I genuinely feel every day so blessed and so lucky to like be a part of this team and to have the impact that I can have and work with amazing students like you. So I actually celebrated my 5-year anniversary at Roblox a few days ago. And, it's kind of crazy to see how much time has passed, but that wasn't always the case. Like I really had to find my groove, figure out where my niche was, figure out what, I was strong in, where I could really make an impact. And over time, I got praise, I got accolades, I got a promotion, and I'm not trying to brag here, but wow, what a journey it was to like get from not feeling very confident to like all of a sudden getting all of this recognition that I hadn't even realized was possible. Okay, so the other thing I want to share with my story is that beyond all of these like milestones and things that happened in my life, I still had this mindset where, I was thinking to myself, am I enough? Like I am here, but like, do I matter? What if I disappoint my family? They've worked really hard to get to this point. What if I fail? Should I even be here? The college example, I think, is such a great metaphor for imposter syndrome. Being in this environment where people were so different from me, like, do I actually belong? Why me? Sometimes I feel this with my partner, like I feel so lucky because he's so smart and I'm just like lowly old me. Like, why me? What was so special or unique about me that was like different from the rest? Do I have experience? This is also another mindset that I had, especially coming into university recruiting, where like I had no direct experience prior to. Like I somehow happily stumbled upon this career that's been so fulfilling. And then lastly, this one's probably going to crack you up, but like, is this real life? Like, is this all happening to me? Am I one day going to wake up and it's like, that didn't even happen? So all of these things were cluttering my mind, even though A, I had like a great partner, B, I made it to an amazing school, C, I, have this amazing job and I'm getting all this praise. The impact of this kind of really demonstrates like how small I was playing, how I was afraid to take risks and kind of limited myself to what was possible. And my perceptions of like myself and my reality and what I was capable of really kind of shaped my behaviors and how I kind of interacted with the world. Okay, I saw a few hearts and emojis and things like that in the Zoom. How many of you all can relate to like these feelings of all this great stuff is happening around me, but I can't believe it for myself? I see you, Soumya, Sheila, Emily, Edith, I see you, Corin. Like, yes, like you're not alone, okay? I've been there too. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about 5 types of imposter syndrome. And the goal is to kind of demonstrate the different ways imposter syndrome can show up in our lives. And this comes from research done by Dr. Valerie Young, who leads up the Imposter Syndrome Institute. Like, this is such a phenomenon that they need to have an institute for it. So if you're interested, definitely check out their research. But there are 5 different types. The first one is expert, or I guess the second one here on the slide, being an expert. So knowing or expecting to know everything and feeling ashamed when you don't. In other words, you need to like know everything, and not knowing even the smallest thing, like a trivia fact or something random, means that you're a failure. The other type of imposter syndrome you might experience is perfectionism. You set impossibly high standards for yourself and beat yourself up when you don't reach them. Like, flawless execution is important. And even, the most minor setback can really kind of impact how you feel. The third type is soloist. So this is believing you have to do everything by yourself. Like, you refuse to accept help from anybody, and you want to like, self-reliance is kind of like your superpower here. The fourth type that might come up for you is the natural genius. So this is feeling like things come naturally to you. Anytime you encounter like a learning curve or like need additional training, like you feel ashamed or embarrassed. And then the last one is the superhuman. So this is where you feel you should be able to excel at everything, no matter what it is, even if you haven't had experience in that domain or task or activity. You can do it, no problem at all. And so when you're like juggling all these balls in the air, when things falter, you feel ashamed that you can't handle it. So these are the 5 types that might appear for you or show up for you in your day-to-day life. in the chat or on Zoom audio, which one is most common to you? Or are there more than one that show up for you? Anyone want to share? Don't be shy. Perfectionist, yes, Shamila, I see you. I definitely relate to that. Especially as someone who, really built up a strong work ethic. Like I would always see work as like a reflection of me and like my reputation. And so even the smallest like mistake or error, like, man, I would feel very doubtful of my abilities for sure. And Jessica, I see you, all of them depends on the field. Yep, I think depending on the situation or the context you're coming from, like you might kind of get that feeling of, okay, there's my expert imposter coming out, or here's my natural genius imposter coming out. Soloist, yep, that one I think is also, especially if you come from a background where like you had to do everything, or like you were very independent, like that pride in being able to do everything yourself, I think also, might be the type of imposter that appears for you. All right, thanks everyone for sharing. So now I'm gonna get into talking about the impact of imposter syndrome. So in other words, thinking about, okay, we know now that there are these feelings that we may experience throughout our upbringing, throughout our careers, our jobs, and we can identify the 5 different types that might show up. But what is the impact of having these feelings, or what is the result? What is the outcome or result that might influence your life if you have these feelings, in your mind, moving around, etc. Okay, so first question for the group: in what ways can imposter syndrome have a negative impact on your life, or in what ways can it poorly affect your quality of life, how you navigate the world? Lower confidence, yes, I know that.
Could stop you from taking opportunities and taking chances.
Yes, exactly. And Emily also, mentioned deterring from seeing opportunities for sure. And Charbel says, waste your energy, time spent on work, self-questioning. Sandy, I see you. Take a toll on your mental health. Yep, I've definitely been there before too, Ensign. I feel you there. Corinne says, feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, it's imposter syndrome kind of sucks, right? Okay, so to summarize some of the talking points y'all mentioned, the negative impact of having these imposter feelings can include stress, being burnt out, losing productivity, right? You're like spending all this time ruminating on this negative chatter going on inside your head. You might have limiting beliefs about yourself and your ability, and you play it small. In other words, you don't allow yourself to take risks, to take on new challenges for fear of failure. And then lastly, financial loss. So in the video we saw earlier, right? Thinking about how you are hesitant to take on new challenges, new job opportunities, new roles. If you're afraid to put yourself out there or self-promote, you might experience a financial loss. Like you might get passed over for a promotion or not get the raise that you wanted. So the not so fun parts of these imposter syndrome feelings. If we flip the question, in what ways can imposter syndrome have a positive impact? What I want to get at here is, you may have these feelings, but it could also be to your benefit too. Improve you. Yeah, Charbel, I see you. In what ways can imposter syndrome positively impact or influence our way of being or the way we show up in the world?
It keeps you sometimes humble, that you always want to excel and learn more or do better.
Yes. I love the humbleness aspect too. Like, I think it's great to have that level of self-awareness and knowing, what you are capable of. Continuous growth. Yep. I see you, Drew. Like, being the type of individual that's like always thinking about like, if I'm not enough, what can I do to be better? Like, I think having that propensity toward growth and self-improvement, like, I think is a great mindset. Empathy, yep, Shmila, I see you. Love it. Okay, so a few things, right, that we all covered. So ways that imposter syndrome can positively affect our lives or positively influence us. Earlier, when we talked about the definition of imposter syndrome, right, it's common among highly achieving individuals. So if you have like these feelings, it probably means you're doing the thing. What do I mean by that? It means you're like accomplishing what it is you want to accomplish. You're successful, you're, killing it essentially. So it could be a sign that like you're actually moving towards the achievements or accomplishments that you aspire for yourself. Empathy, Shmila, I know you put empathy in there, right? Like having a sense of compassion towards other people who also might be, feeling down about themselves or might be experiencing a level of fear or doubt. Like you have that, capacity to like really love on them and like show them like care and like can really understand what they're going through. Self-awareness. So Saad talked a little bit about feeling humble and knowing, what you are really good at and, what your weaknesses are. And like, that's okay to have weaknesses. Like we're human, right? We're not made to be machines and we're not always perfect. And then lastly, Drew mentioned continuous growth, right? So self-improvement, because you're like over analyzing yourself and like thinking about all the like bad things, you have a natural propensity to improve. Like that's in your DNA and that's in your nature, right? So what I hope you take away from this is like, yes, imposter syndrome sucks, but like, look at all these other great things that kind of come with it, right? Like you are accomplishing really great things. You're able to empathize with others. You're constantly thinking about how you can, up level and what your strengths are, what you actually want to do, whether it be in your career or in your, space in the world, etc. So yes, imposter syndrome is not that great, but there could be some benefits too, right? Okay. This is a short list of some of the things that have helped me quiet that inner critic. So like not necessarily silencing, but like keeping my imposter syndrome at bay, and what have really instilled confidence in my abilities and things like that. So really quickly, I'm going to go through this list and then we're going to do some fun exercises. So the first one is look to the facts. What I mean by that is, your inner dialogue is not serving you. The negative chatter in your mind is lying to you. I say that with like a little bit of a chuckle because like, when you think about all of these things that this narrative that you built up in your mind, like it may not be true. And so whenever you get an award or whenever you get praise or a compliment or kudos on a job well done, those are your data points that suggest like, hey, you are successful, you're qualified, and you're capable. So look to the facts, right? Like what are those specific anecdotes that suggest that you are doing the thing? Self-compassion, again, being kind to yourself, show yourself love and grace. The third one, practicing mindfulness. I know this sounds like so cliche because it's like so in right now, but even 5 minutes of just like alone time and setting yourself away from distractions like your phone or social media, just like being present with yourself, doing some deep breathing can really have ripple effects on like your well-being and like how you perceive these different thoughts. Connecting with others, so sharing your experience, talking about what you're going through with a loved one or a professional, it's such a huge relief, right? When you're able to put out there in the world, right? These like feelings that you've bottled up inside, to just like get rid of them, right? Like physically release them, whether it be like talking through it with someone. Okay, the next one is let go of expectations. Again, we're not perfect, we're human. It's okay to make mistakes, like that's part of the process. So don't stress, right? Like letting go of needing to be perfect all the time, needing to like have it together, right? Give your imposter syndrome a name. And what I mean by that is, imagine in your mind, right? Imposter syndrome being like a cartoon or a object or something. And anytime that voice comes up in your head, call it out and say like, no, imposter syndrome, go away. Or like, I don't know, monster, something. Like give that voice a name, and anytime it appears, just, you know, call it out. I've actually found that to be really helpful. And sometimes I'll even sing a song like, oh no, and be a little sassy about it. But it really does help. Like, I think that physical shift in mindset can really influence the way that you think. And then lastly, check your posture. And what I mean by that is sometimes changing your physical being or the way you sit or the way you stand can really improve your mood. So look to the facts, having self-compassion, practicing mindfulness, connecting with others, letting go of expectations, improving self-talk, giving your imposter feelings a name or like a character, or like envisioning them as something, and thinking about your posture are some of the ways that I've found really helpful for me in terms of quelling that feeling of imposter syndrome in my mind. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and walk us through a few exercises. I know I've been talking a lot. So the first one is I want you all to get out of your seat. And I see you all on camera. So if you don't get out of your seat, I'm just kidding. Get out of your seat. And you can do this anytime you have like a big task coming up, okay? Whether it's an interview or a presentation or exam, really at any point, just power poses, okay? Like fake it till you make it. It really does help, especially when you just like have all of these nerves or like, you know, anxious feelings inside. So everyone stand up on your feet. I see you, Saad, you're still sitting. Thanks for letting me pick on you as my guinea pig. Okay, everyone stand up, feet firm on the ground, hands on your waist as if you're like a superhero, okay? Like channel that confidence. Deep breaths. Let's do a few of them. So one and another one. Okay, and then smile. Even if it's a fake smile and you're not like feeling it, just like do it, okay? Think positive thoughts. Tell yourself, you've got this. You're gonna ace that exam. You're gonna nail that interview. Gabriella, it's okay. It's okay, I see you. And just think to yourself, you got this. You got this. You can do the thing. Okay, everyone sit down. You're good. Thank you all. I'm gonna applaud you all. Thank you for participating. Okay, Gabriella, I'm gonna bug you since you're in the office. How did that feel to stand up and like command that, you know, confidence, that like inner power?
It felt really good because sometimes in these rooms it's when I get a little nervous before like a call or something. So it was pretty nice to just do a power pose in it. So yeah.
Yeah, like you just feel like a sense of release. Like, you know, you have all this like tightness built up in you, but like, you know, you just let it go and you enable yourself to like go in with like a really good mindset, right? Thanks, Gabriella. Okay, next exercise. We can do a choice. Do we want to write? Do we want to visualize? Or do we want to meditate? Group choice. Put it in the chat. Write, meditate, or visualize. Visualize? Okay, that one's actually a fun one. So with that, we're going to close out today's session with a visualization activity. So if you want to finally turn your cameras off now, I won't be offended. But what we're going to do is take the next 2 or 3 minutes in silence for all of us to close our eyes and think about something we want to accomplish. Like, what is a goal or aspiration you have in mind that you want to achieve? Could be winning an award, landing your dream job, reaching a personal milestone. For me, that would be, I don't know, I've been like a couch potato throughout the pandemic. So making myself go outside and like bike for like an hour. Okay, visualize that. Think about that feeling of, wow, I'm here. Like I did it. Savoring that sense of accomplishment pride. Think about what it took to get there. What were the steps that you needed to do to achieve that award, to get that job, all of the preparation? Create a clear picture in your mind of your best self accomplishing this great thing. And observe every detail, every sensation. Embrace that feeling of, wow, I did that. I did the thing. All right, y'all. Slowly, when you feel ready, open your eyes. If you want to resume the camera. How does it feel afterwards going through that visualization? What are some changes you noticed? Jessica, I see you happy. Yes. Hope. Yes. Motivation. Relaxed. Optimistic. I hope that through this direction, yes, like a boss, yes. These are all great things. So what I hope that you all take from this is like, when you visualize your best self, it unlocks so many possibilities for you, right? Like, you can do the thing. You are the thing that it is you want to accomplish. So you could do this anytime. And research kind of shows like if you continue to do it over and over, like it'll actually help you get closer to your goals. So like a lot of Olympic athletes will do visualization before the big race, and it like propels them and gets them into that mindset or that performance mindset to achieve and do well. So there are a few other exercises that I have for you all that will be included in the slides. And you're welcome to do these, after today's session, but a grounding exercise or just taking a few moments to like be still, like that visualization exercise is a type of mindfulness. You could also do, mindfulness meditation or, stretching, whatever it is to help you kind of separate or create that space between you and your thoughts, right? Like, you are not your thoughts. You are not your imposter syndrome. You're not these feelings that you have in your head, okay? Like, set some time aside to like create that gap between you and these negative thoughts in your head. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, sweet. The other fun exercise that I had for us was a writing exercise. So again, it's looking to the facts. So thinking about what are those data points that really show you are successful, that you're capable. So this one requires you to do like a little bit of reflection and think about like a time when you were confronted with a challenge or some type of setback. What did you do? And like, how did you end up accomplishing, whatever goal or situation it was in mind? And those are sort of the evidence that suggests like, no, you're actually qualified. You do belong here. Like you are enough. So this is also a really great one to do as well. Knowing those specific pieces of evidence that suggest like you are capable. Okay. And now I'm gonna fast forward. So today we spent 45 minutes talking about this icky feeling, imposter syndrome. We talked about these feelings, their impact in our lives. We did a few practice exercises to talk about what are ways we can combat these imposter feelings. And lastly, I appreciate you all for being vulnerable with me, sharing safe space, and offering support to each other. I hope that through today's topic and discussion, you found some tips to help you in your journey. And thank you all for being so engaging and interactive with me. Okay, before we get into the Q&A, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about some recruiting opportunities. Y'all are talented students and individuals. And I know you're hungry to like make an impact and build some really cool stuff in your career. So my team will be recruiting for internships and new grad roles later this August. So definitely check out our career site or follow us on LinkedIn. You can also follow me on LinkedIn and stay connected. I'd love to hear y'all. This topic of imposter syndrome means a lot to me, mostly because like I've dealt with it, and being first generation American and the first in my family to go to college, like I did not have anyone in my support network to like rely on. So I'm always happy to talk about these feelings of, you know, not being enough, or like what you can do to, you know, boost your self-confidence and self-esteem. So feel free to reach out to me after today's presentation. Otherwise, thank you all so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you all found this information super helpful.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, Jeanie, thank you so much for that great presentation. Can we all just come off of mic or mute and just give her a round of applause? That was so fantastic. I was sitting here and I was jotting things down, and I just want to double click on one of the points. I believe it was the first point you talked about, and you were talking about the voices in our head basically lying to us. In a previous role, and I'll be brief, in a previous role, I gave a presentation, and you could not have convinced me otherwise that I didn't bomb it. Like, I was like, I was terrible, I was horrible. I'm gonna get, you know, my manager is going to, you know, tell me off or something, I don't know. But anywho, I ended up having my one-on-one with my manager. She's like, you were great, you were fantastic, you were so engaging. And I'm like, that is completely different from what thoughts I had in my head. So Jeanie, thank you so much for that. And I know this will be helpful information as these folks look onto the fall recruiting season. But with that, we have some time. So want to just turn it over to y'all. Do you have any questions for Jeanie on this topic?
I'm reading everyone's info in the chat. Thank you all so much. I think going through these different exercises, like I also am like I said at the beginning, like I'm not like any type of research professional or anything like that. But you know, these feelings do come up, and it's okay. Like it's okay. We can, you know, work through different exercises to help us feel better, feel more confident, and you know, allow us to live like to our fullest potential that we can imagine for ourselves. Jessica, did you have a question?
Oh, yes, I do. Can I?
Yeah, please. Feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and go for the question.
My name is Jessica and I'm from New York. I recently graduated with a marketing bachelor's degree, and I just started my job this week. And
you did the thing, Jessica, you did it.
Yes, and actually I am asking this because I am going to the office probably this Thursday, and I have a question. It sounded like the tips and advice of great content. I appreciate it. I think that they are very proactive approach. Wondering how about the reactive approach when you actually in a networking meeting with thousands of people and everybody's bragging about the universities, and then you right there in the middle, you cannot run to the bathroom to, or you have to be there, and you start hearing all of these amazing things. And what can you do? You cannot go meditate. You cannot go do the pose. How can you overcome that? You're in the middle of the imposter syndrome taking over you.
Yes, that is a great question, Jessica. And I really appreciate just like the thought around like, what can you do in the moment? I think one of the things that's helpful is shifting the self-talk in your mind, right? Like in that moment, right? As folks are introducing themselves or sharing a little bit about themselves, you start getting that like icky gut feeling. Just be like, no, imposter syndrome. I am here. I deserve to be here, right? Like Jessica, you wouldn't have gotten the job offer if they didn't think you were qualified, right? So like you deserve a seat at that table. In that moment, if you start getting that gut sense of like, you know, like shift that mindset, call out the imposter syndrome, and just go in with, you know, a demeanor of like, I am here. I am allowed, like I am here for a reason, right? So I would, hopefully that gives you a little bit of ways to combat it in that moment. But I do agree. I think there are multiple ways of approaching it when it's before a big event or during, after, etc. And congratulate, I can't find like my reaction emoji in Zoom, but like, yay, I'm doing the ta-da and like sprinkle emoji for you on your job offer. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And happy first day going into the office. Yeah, go for it, Saad.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick thought. What are your thoughts on like how do you balance being like if you have imposter syndrome, sometimes you're more likely to be humble when you're in an interview process. So how do you balance trying to showcase your skills and trying to sometimes sell yourself? And then at the same time, I don't know, I find it personally difficult to oversell myself, which is something that is kind of required to do when you're in the middle of in an interview or in your job search. So I would love to hear thoughts on that.
Yes, that is a great question. And I also too, like in my day-to-day like working life, if you will, like because I grew up with the intent of like my parents always said like don't rock the boat, like don't draw too much attention to yourself. But I think depending on the context, like if it's a presentation, if it's a job interview or a performance review, like the goal for you is to showcase your accomplishments, your strengths, what value you can bring to the team or company that you're joining. So I think thinking about the context in which you're having these conversations, what is the end goal that you want to accomplish from that, and do it in a way that's like thoughtful and unapologetic. So one example from my like career that I can share with you is for a while, I was like a one-person team at Roblox. Our university team is like very new. Like it was a new function. There was resources to really ramp up our recruiting efforts. And I kind of just raised my hand out of sheer like, hey, let me help out. I used to work in higher ed. Would love to be a part of it. So I was a one-person team for a while, and my manager like. She was great, but she didn't have as in-depth university recruiting experience as I had. Like I was boots on the ground, going to campuses, talking to students. My manager was doing like reports and like talking to our leadership things. So there was definitely like, she did not have that awareness of like what I was doing day to day. And so when it came time to performance review season, I pretty much wrote like a document of like, here's everything I did, here's what I accomplished, here's how it impacted the business strategy and goals, etc. Like, I think in those moments when you're confronted with something related to performance or there's a specific outcome you want to achieve, like it's okay to self-promote. It's totally fine. Don't be shy about it. Like, I think it's better that like you over communicate to the end, user, or like whoever's on the receiving end, rather than keeping it to yourself, because otherwise they're not going to know and you're going to miss out on really great opportunities. Again, talking about like living small, we don't want to do that. We want to allow ourselves to, achieve those big things that we have in mind for ourselves. Hopefully that answers your question, Saad, and good luck on your next interview.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take one more. I know we're almost at time. Sandy, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a question regarding to the facts when people like compare themselves to the others, and then when they felt to like when they found that they're not as good as as the others, and people feel like their like self-value kind of decrease. So I wonder if that can also count as imposter syndrome. Yeah, and if that's like there's way to kind of prevent like people from like comparing ourselves like to others.
Oh yeah, totally. Like I think that part of like that comparison is also feeding into why we may have those feelings, right? Like we feel pressured to like perform at a certain level or come from a specific background. And I think, being able to change that dialogue you have with yourself to thinking and facing the facts again, like what are those specific examples that showcase otherwise that you deserve a seat at the table, you deserve to be in that room with people, I think might be able to help kind of those feelings of comparison. But yeah, I've been there before too. Like I said, when I was sharing about my college experience, being around all these like amazing people, like I don't even know what I'm going to do for like dinner, like, you know what I mean? So I think really shifting your mindset and having this awareness, like I think the fact that you all are here and talking about this is great. Like it really shows kind of a level of humbleness, you know, going back to what we talked about earlier, that like you have a level of understanding that, you know, others might not have. So, okay, I'll pause there because now I've been talking a lot. Isaac, should we close it out?
Yes, let's go ahead and close it out. But before we do, I do want to announce the winner of our resume review. And that is Emily Cern. Is it Cerno? I believe I might have mispronounced that.
Mario.
But Emily, yes, so you are the winner of the resume review. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Perfect. So we will loop back with you on how to get that going. But yes, definitely would like to close this out. Thank you all so much for joining this session. Huge shout out to Jeanie for this amazing presentation. And with that, look out for email from Talent Board to register for our next session on July 21st. And that's going to be around networking and personal branding by ERX. So see y'all then.
Thanks, everybody. If I didn't get to your question, my LinkedIn is in the chat. Always happy to be a resource to the community. Go and like do great things, okay? You got this. Power pose. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Jeannie. Bye-bye.